All right. Woo. But, yeah, we're going to boycott that.
Hey, good evening. Good evening. Hi there. It's really, it's sunny.
It's
in
so
lobbyists
sunny
for
that,
citizens.
yeah, those shades, man. You sure
Yeah,
you're not
and we are
hiding from the
we are protecting the
feds?
border. We are protecting the border here.
I got you.
Yeah, there we go.
Jonathan,
hey,
how you
everybody.
doing, man?
Good. Happy to be here.
All right, so we're going to get hopping here. We might have a few unexpected guests dropping in. We will see. Never know that for sure. But if not, we will hold down the fort, guys. So the Super Bowl, of course, is tonight. We're not going to be paying attention to it, even though I got a lot of money on it. Just kidding. I've not been paying a whole lot of attention to it. But hey, before we go any further, I want to just knock out one thing. I want to talk about one thing, and then we're going to get into some more of the Ohio stuff. But everybody's been following the Nancy Guthrie, the whole ransom issue, that's been happening out in Tucson, Arizona, right? You guys been following that. You can't turn anywhere and not see it.
Right.
it's
you can't
everywhere.
avoid it.
I know.
Yes,
and I'm so intrigued with it. I can't stop watching it. You know, I'm on my cell phone nonstop trying to find out the latest issues on it and everything like that. All right, there's been some real bumbling, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I found this. I don't know if you've been following it close, but that sheriff out there, his name is Chris Nanos, Pima County, Arizona. And boy, he's been making some big blunders. This guy, I don't understand him. Okay, so one of the things he did at the Guthrie's home, Nancy Guthrie's home, was he removed the crime tape way too soon. I mean, after just a couple days or even a day or so, he removed it. And then he had the podcasters and the news journalists. He had everybody just rummaging through the house, taking pictures, looking at stuff. You know, what was going through this guy's mind? And then the FBI comes along and says, "Now we got to get that tape back up, and you got to make sure nobody comes near this house for the next several days." Yeah, they've been going back and forth doing this. Then even the FBI took down the tape, and they came back a few more days. They put the tape back up. It's pretty much an interesting debacle. He has a Cessna aircraft, okay, one of these airplanes with high-resolution thermal imaging cameras. So they had that available. Did they use it? It took them 5 hours after they contacted, they found out that she was missing. It took them 5 hours to get that stupid thing up in the air. Then they said that was the most crucial 5 hours. And what the sheriff had done is he had gotten rid of the pilot months ago, because I guess he didn't like the guy. And so then the pilot was saying to the sheriff, "Well, let me just fly it. You need, this is an emergency situation." And he's like, "No, somebody else. I'm going to get somebody else." Unbelievable.
Did he get somebody else?
Well, you know what? They got somebody else, but they ended up flying the helicopter. I don't think they got anybody to use that infrared airplane, Cessna, that they have. They put them up in a helicopter to go looking around. It didn't have any infrared sensors on it. Another problem he did was he didn't call the FBI immediately, this sheriff. And then he's saying, "Well, maybe I should have called the FBI a little bit sooner." And then he was spotted yesterday at a college basketball game, University of Arizona. With all of this going on, he's supposed to be the lead investigator. We got the ransom note. You got Savannah, Anna, their brother. They're all there. They just got this new note, ransom note. I mean, they're as distraught as you can imagine over this high-profile case. And what is the sheriff doing? He's hanging out at a basketball game with some friends having a good old time. This guy, he's a goofball is what he is. But anyhow, you got anything on that whole thing? Is there any questions?
Yeah, it really is a sad situation, but I wonder, why is it taking front and center news 24/7? What are they trying to not present to the people? I mean, there's got to be other news going on in Columbus, and I just I just have a feeling that they're putting this on so that we can't see what's going on behind the curtain in Columbus.
Distraction.
It could be a distraction, but I'll tell you what, if it's a distraction, it's working really well because I can't get enough of it. I mean, I'm as guilty as the next guy. I am just going from everything on my cell phone, from one podcaster to the next, trying to get more information on it. Because the thing is so intriguing. I don't know, you find it intriguing? Have you been at all?
Well, no, so my thoughts are with Brian's. I think that it's a distraction. It's meant, anytime you get something like that that's made huge and splashy, that is now my initial thought. What's happening in the news that we are being led to not notice? No, I don't know that I have much more to add beyond that.
No, I got you. It could definitely be something like that, without a doubt. I just was really caught up on it. Okay, if we got anybody in the chats, you were saying, Kent, you're saying that there might be some chats out there, some chat. Do we have people in the chat room?
Yeah, nothing yet.
Okay, so anybody in the chat, man, please ask questions tonight. I don't care what. I don't care what your questions are on. We just want to incorporate you a little bit into the whole conversation and stuff like that. And it's good. It's good that you're out there. All right. I want to get into talking about this thing right here, Brian. By the way, let's get into the whole property tax thing here for a minute. It's got a lot of tentacles and stuff, but I want to show you this because Ron DeSantis has the perfect. I think he's got the perfect idea. I don't know. Ron DeSantis. Oh wait, we got a chat here. Let me just say, I'm so upset that the bread and circus isn't tailored directly to me. Y'all are hilarious. Okay, well, love it. Okay. Good evening, Deborah Wilden, 1971. Good evening. All right, great. So you guys keep us honest tonight, okay? We want to hear from you. But anyhow, this is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I want to just hear what he has to say here for a minute.
Of property. So we got to put it on the ballot, and the voters have to approve it. It's a constitutional issue in Florida. It's not something the state derives revenue for. It's a local issue. We're trying to focus on Florida homeowners and their primary resident, people that have Airbnbs or whatever. You know, that's separate. Yeah. But your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you're paying taxes
right
for
there,
50
that guy
years.
is. Why don't we have a governor like that? Why do we not have a governor like that? But one thing, here's what he's saying. I want to get your take on it. Number one, their legislature is going to put this on as a constitutional amendment. So it doesn't have to get all the signatures like, you're trying to grab 420,000 signatures. In Florida, the legislature is going to do it themselves. Put it on constitutional amendment. Number two, it is for only home owners and your primary residence. So if you have rental property, you're still paying property taxes. If you have a business, you're paying property taxes. A B&B, Airbnb, you're paying property taxes. But your primary home residence, no more property taxes. Okay, what do you think of that?
Well, obviously, Florida's got a governor that believes in the citizens of the state, and we've got legislators that are putting the people before the special interest and their lobbyists. That does not happen in the state of Ohio, unfortunately. We've got a governor that is only worried about Somalis and Haitians in Springfield. But as far as the average citizen, owning their home, that doesn't even enter into Governor DeWine's thought process at all. And the legislators, again, in Ohio, the two top priorities of our legislators is to protect themselves and to get reelected. No mention of what's in the best interest of the citizens, unfortunately.
Okay, now DeWine been in the news recently, and here is
a proposed constitutional amendment in Ohio could eliminate your property taxes. But Governor Mike DeWine says it could come at a huge cost. He says getting rid of property taxes would hurt funding for schools, police, and fire departments. And he says the state would have to make up that money somehow.
Did it through a sales tax. Sales tax would go up to a 17, 18, 19%. 20% sales tax in the state of Ohio on products that you buy. So it would just be absolutely devastating.
It'd be absolutely devastating. So there's no way that we can do it, Brian. There's no other alternative. But yet Ron DeSantis is coming up with something.
It's just amazing, really, isn't it? Who voted for this guy? Raise your hand if you voted for.
Oh, hell
DeWine.
no, I didn't vote for him. Well, hell no.
DeWine
Well,
is the governor we get when the Democrats elect the Republican governor. That's what we've got there. That's why we have open primaries, apparently, is so that the Republicans can never actually get a true Republican in office. That's my view.
No, I hear you. So he forgets the key is the budget. Manage the budget.
Manage the budget. Yeah.
He doesn't believe in cutting spending.
Right.
Like Commissioner Plechnik's been saying from the very beginning, cut spending.
Cut spending.
Do we need 611 school districts in Ohio?
Sometimes you have to put it in an analogy.
Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry to step on your toes there, Brian, but I on that element, it's a subtlety, but there's an area there where you and I disagree. I don't agree that consolidating school districts and making just a few school districts in Ohio is the answer. Clearly, when you're looking at Lake County, for instance, Lake County combined spends over $505 million, according to their most recent budget. I think what'll happen if you consolidate and make like Lake County one giant school district like Pennsylvania did is worse catastrophe. In Pennsylvania, they have 9 intermediate units, or IUs for short, and they're kind of like bands from north to south that cover huge numbers of school districts. The ones outliers on the northern and southern edges of Pennsylvania get almost no attention. And the budget has still gone up. They just spend it other ways. We've seen that happen. The problem I have is when you have school districts that have budgets 120, 140, $200 million a year, and we're getting the result across the board nationwide of roughly 30% literacy rates, and math I think is maybe even more dismal, and the U.S. spends more than anywhere else in the world practically, and we're roughly last place. Clearly there's budget to be cut, and I that's a drum that I've beaten for months, but sometimes it works to put it in the form of an analogy. What if, start with a really inspiring question, what if we could do to our education industrial complex in the United States something like Elon Musk did to Twitter? Remember when he went in and they had, I don't know, they were spending $1 billion a minute or whatever, and they had like 60,000 extra staff who, I don't even know what it was. It was outrageous. They had all kinds of people there that were superfluous. They didn't work. They stayed at home and just collected paychecks and all that kinds of stuff. Well, everyone said when he started cutting cost dramatically across the board to make it efficient, that there's no way that Twitter would survive. Well, look at it now. Is some small fraction of the number of staff that they used to employ, the costs went way down, and the product is way better. So it stands to reason we should be able to do the same thing in education. We should not be spending $30,000 a year to anger, infuriate, and confuse illiterate children. That's ridiculous. Stop following.
Yeah, Jonathan, again, we've said that the Ohio Constitution, Article 6, Section 2 of the Ohio Constitution says that it is the responsibility of the state to fund the schools. And we're saying that they're not doing that. We can talk about the DeRolf case where the Supreme Court said that you should not rely on property taxes solely for the funding of schools, or it should not be the prominent source of funding. And we're trying to get our state legislators to follow their oath to support and defend the Ohio Constitution, and they're not doing it. If they can come up with a way to keep 611 school districts, and instead of spending $18,000 per child, they can do it for 10, I'm in. But the path that we're on right now is unsustainable, and it is not producing good results. Why would we keep doing what we've been doing for the last several decades. It makes no sense.
And it's caught up to us, too, though. People cannot
Yep.
afford these property taxes anymore. So something has to be done. And DeWine's only solution is, well, we've got to up the sales tax because we've got to be bringing in all this money.
Yeah, because he's doing a dollar for dollar replacement, and we're saying no. That's not. We would not do a dollar for dollar replacement, as we talk about. Cut spending all the way across. And what do we have? 6,000 or more different taxing districts in the state. We're probably one of the leading states with taxing districts. So using property taxes as a source of funding has just become it's sort of automatic. And if you don't support the funding of schools or libraries, that's another thing that we looked at. The number of libraries that we have in this state is unbelievable. It's just not sustainable. They spend more on libraries than they do giving money back to the local communities to be used for police and fire.
I want to ask.
The problem is at the state level.
I want to ask some of the people in the chat room. When was the last time anybody was at a library? I mean, realistically, to get a book, you can get everything online if you want to. Let me see if this makes any sense here. Let me read this. Joe DiZenzo. Why is our amendment going so much further than Florida's? This amendment in Ohio, including you folks, are giving an additional $10 billion cash giveaway annually to corporations. Okay, now I got it. So what he's saying, and I've often thought about this question is, well, Brian, you're the expert. Why shouldn't anybody who is making money on a property that is income producing pay property taxes, and just the homeowners be taxed? It sounds like that would be something
let's back up though, and what happened? Why did we go with the amendment to abolish property taxes completely? I got to make sure everybody remembers that, because I know we've talked about it before. But remember, it was with Leonard and I started, we wanted to talk to our representatives because we saw that if we stay on this path of ever increasing property taxes, we're going to price seniors and those living on fixed incomes out of their home. We then started with, well, can we get support from our local legislators to eliminate property taxes for seniors? And they said no. We went to the House Ways and Means Committee down at the state capitol. We went to the Representative Romer's committee to review and reform property taxes. They censored our speech. They were not listening to us at all. We were just the average citizens trying to do what we thought was best for a lot of people in the state of Ohio, and our legislators could care less. They were more interested in supporting the special interest groups and their donor class rather than helping the citizens of the state of Ohio. We then said we need to get their attention. Pure and simple, we wanted when you're going through this amendment process, unlike the state of Florida, where you've got legislators that are going to do it automatically, it's going to be on the ballot. When the citizens do it in Ohio, the more complicated that you make the amendment, it becomes really convoluted in trying to create this amendment to show that you're going to make these changes on certain parts of the Ohio Revised Code. We thought that would have been too difficult of a lift to even get the Attorney General to approve our amendment. So we said from the very beginning, we are going to make it very simple so that they understand we're going to abolish all of it. Now, if the legislators were to come up with their own constitutional amendment that is similar to what the Florida is going to do, I would imagine there's many people in the state of Ohio would say, gee, we're satisfied with that. Maybe we don't want to abolish all of it. But when we were going through this process, our legislators were not hearing anything about even reform all these four issues that Representative Dave Thomas got approved and the governor signed it, it was only because the citizens said to our legislators, enough is enough.
Okay, no, I understand exactly what you're saying there. And so as a citizens-led initiative like what you have, in order to put that on the ballot or to get the signatures and saying, well, wait a minute, residency is property tax free, but if you're making any kind of money, it's going to be property taxes will be charged. I can understand that because you've got to put all the legal jargon in there, and it's got to be right, or it will be they will X it out. It's just, it won't make the ballot or anything like that. So you have to keep it as simple 100%. As you can. I got you. And it's different with Ron DeSantis because he's encouraging the lawmakers to put this together, and they can get it more complicated. But it's if that were to happen in Ohio, I think everybody would jump on board with it as well. If you have a property that's making money, you will be taxed a property tax. Okay, that's fine. That's probably one way we can actually fund the money, because it wouldn't be $23 billion anymore. I don't know what it would be, but it would be a lot less.
Well, I mean, there was another option, Joe, and it was Lake County Auditor Chris Galloway was asking me, Brian, is there anything that we could do at the state level that would prevent you from going forward with the abolishment? And I said, well, 60-70% of the property taxes are going to school. I would imagine if they would exempt the property taxes for school funding, that could probably be something that would be that would entice the citizens not to support our amendment for total abolishment. But again, the legislators were not interested in doing any modifications like that. So, they came up with these too little too late, reform measurements by David Thomas, but he did that because that's all that Matt Huffman would let him do.
No, I got you. Okay. I got you.
Joe,
so that's something that we could work on with that. We can work on that. Go ahead.
It seemed like you were getting ready to move on to a different topic, and I wanted to interject a perspective before you do. I think sometimes it's important to take a step back and look at how we got to where we are. And I hold the opinion that the reason things got as bad as they are, with massive, massive amounts of money that's just shoveled into a blast furnace of waste, fraud, and abuse in our education system, which has drastically failed us. I want to put it in this sort of hypothetical. If you go to a store to buy something and you're presented with a choice, do you want to pay $100 now, or would you like this formula applied to your mortgage payment? Some people will defer to the formula, especially if it looks really complicated. You pay 0.0017% on a certain stipulated basis and whatever. People's eyes glaze over. They're like, I don't know what that means. Sure, just add it on, lump it into my house payment. When you do that, it is a ripe territory for huge over-expense, overspending, overcharging to happen. So every once in a while, when you step back and look at it, and we realize that we're spending things like $32,000 per student in places like Wickliffe, which is in Lake County. They're like, all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, how do we get to that point? Or 40-some thousand in other districts. We've got Akron and North Canton. Look at this state. By the way, it's all published. It's all on Ohio Department of Education. You can go and look at those sheets. And to people who follow me on social media, no, I'm not some sort of bad guy for taking screen captures from the Ohio Department of Education and showing people what your local school district is spending. So cut it out. I'm so fed up with all the people who are like, tell me that I'm anti-education if I point to the school district spending $32,000. That's ridiculous. But
$32,000 per kid. Yeah,
$32,000 per kid.
Per child,
so
yep.
It just shows the whole big budget there. The reason we got to that point is because decades ago, we got conned into something. Let's face it. As a state, as a nation, we got conned. The con game, it ran long. It ran for 70 years. They buried fees inside of mortgage payments, and they just kept jacking them up. And on top of that, they just keep coming back for all kinds of extra more money and fees and charges on top of everything else. Well, look at those numbers and ask yourself, do you want to keep going as the roughly 38th place in the nation, in one of the last places, the least successful education environments on earth, spending 2 or 3 times more than virtually anywhere else? I pulled up a list here. I asked Brave Search, which is their AI thing. I asked it to express in today's dollars cost per pupil of other developed nations. We got Poland at just under 12,000 per student. Italy is 12,000 per student. United Kingdom, 12,000 per student. Austria, 12,000. Belgium, 12. Korea spends 13. Sweden, 13. It starts to creep up there in Austria and Denmark and other nations. Iceland creeps up to 15. But you're at 13, maybe 11, 12, 13,000 per student. And I'm willing to bet you look at these places like Poland, and I strongly suspect that Poland, Italy, and even places like Nigeria, which actually has a very good education system, they're spending vastly less money, and they're putting kids out into the world who are way more prepared academically and have their feet under them from an education standpoint to go out into the world market and get a job. We should all just acknowledge that. When you do, then we can work on repealing property taxes and make it transparent and right-size the expense, because 32 for whatever is coming out of Wycliffe, not good. I think they said they're around 50% proficiency if you're listening and not watching.
50%, yeah, that's enough. That is enough by anybody's standards, 50%.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Jonathan, the other thing I'd like to add, though, what has happened with the property tax system is it's just ripe with deceptions all throughout the whole thing. And it's far too complex with inside-outside millage and House Bill 920, and they keep trying to tweak it. But this whole 20 mil floor, where you're getting automatic increases, without a vote of the taxpayers, it's just not sustainable. And I dare say, who's responsible for educating a child? Is it the state?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's the parent. Hopefully it's the parent that's going to take over and do the right thing with educating
your whole thing,
the kids.
Brian. Your whole thing is it illustrates my point. When you start describing, if you have these certain factors, then you have 20 mil, but that's inside millage, and then certain circumstance, that's exactly when everybody's eyes glaze over, and they're like, I don't understand
Correct.
it. There's a whole bunch of money that goes somewhere to do something. I don't understand it. But if you put a bill in front of somebody, and if you ask some household, hey, would you like to spend $30,000 for your local school district per kid so that they can maybe read, and maybe they're about at F and 50% proficient. By the way, the police will probably show up a lot because not really running the schools very well. And as soon as you say that and you put an actual dollar, the 90 and if statistical 100% of people will be like, no, I'm not paying for that. That's ridiculous.
Well, I think if they start looking at their tax bills, they're going to say, now we got to be paying for that. Well, let me see what this says. Repealing all of our statutes that are repugnant in our alien rights. I was reading some of the chat stuff, and there's a lot of people that like libraries. And so maybe I was wrong. Maybe a lot of people do go to the library. I don't.
I hope
I don't.
All right, Joe.
Let's
do. Yeah, Joe. How about this though?
Yeah.
How about if I go to the library? How about if I pay an annual fee to the library? If I don't go to the library, I'm not paying an annual fee. Now, if we say, well, that's not right, you've got to belong to the collective, because now we're a socialist nation, and we're all in this together. Therefore, we've got to support the library. So even though you don't use it, Brian, you still have to support it.
That's
Is
that's
that
certainly-
what,
That's
is
the
that
same
what
thing
we
with
are
the
as a
school.
country?
Right. That's the same thing with the school system. That's the same thing with everything. That's why it has to be doged, because the property taxes
Yeah.
have gone too high because nobody's paying attention. I mean, you're paying a city tax. We get city tax, which can be ruthless. 1-2% or something like that, with no deductions of your total income. That's pretty ruthless. On top of all the property taxes and everything else. So they should be privatized. Yeah, listen. If we want stuff privatized, if we want changes made, we got to do it. And that's what's
Yes, you're
falling
right.
by the wayside.
Joe, you're absolutely right, Joe.
We have nobody to blame but ourselves, because we thought, and as dumb as this whole thing sounds, we thought the politicians would take care of it because we elected them and we could just go on with our everyday lives. And that ain't happening. That ain't happening at all. Now, the thing with, let me talk about DeWine here for a minute, because I was really ticked off with that whole thing with the 20%. That he's saying that we'd have to pay sales tax 20%. He has no solution except that he knows it's going to hurt the fire, it's going to hurt the police, it's going to hurt the school system, his donor base. That's what he's upset about, okay? And he's putting out this fear-mongering without trying to come up with another alternative. He's not like Ron DeSantis, who's coming up with another alternative. Now, I want to ask you guys a question here. What happened approximately 3 years ago? Do you guys remember what happened about 3 years ago?
A metallic taste in my mouth.
yeah.
I still have
I went down
numbness in my gums.
I'm now on an inhaler that I've never had in my life.
When you go outside,
Remember
and
all
you
this.
smell this, and then your throat goes numb, and you lose your voice, and you can't get your breath. It's heartbreaking. I just have no other way to describe it. This is an environmental disaster, and this is a health crisis, and it needs to be addressed as such.
Yeah, okay, so I bring this up because DeWine seems to get his hands dirty in a lot of things that are devastating to Ohio. East Palestine was devastating to Ohio. And he just recently came out and said that he was responsible for burning off all of that toxic fumes into the air in East Palestine. Remember they were saying it was the part-time firemen?
Yes,
Who gave
that's
everybody?
Right. I do remember
the
that.
part-time firemen gave everybody the authority to go burn off all the toxins into the air. I mean, that is the most ridiculous story. And East Palestine is right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to get both of those governors involved. And now DeWine was sort of making the statement, it kind of was my idea to burn it off. 3 years after the fact, now he knows that nothing's going to happen to him for doing it. If you remember, this is a clouds. These are the toxic clouds that were over this guy's house. And
that was in PA,
Pennsylvania.
wasn't it?
That was in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Those are all toxic waste clouds. And this guy, I cut the sound off of it because all he did was F-bomb nonstop. And he was ticked. And why wouldn't you be? And the whole idea for that burning up all those toxic chemicals was so that they could get the trains up and running as fast as possible. That was the whole idea. They had to get the trains moving, Southern Norfolk, as quickly as possible. So they just said, burn it off, fix the tracks, and we'll worry about the people later in East Palestine. That was horrendous. But he's also been involved in House Bill 6. If you remember that was the nuclear bailout. And I mean, he's right. He was right in the
householders,
middle.
Wasn't it House Bill 6? That was householders' issue too, wasn't it?
Well, householders still in prison. He's going to be there for 20 years. Matt Borges might be getting out next year. He was chairman of the Republican Party. But there was so much corruption. They said it's the biggest corruptive scandal in the history of Ohio politics.
But the government didn't go to help out East Palestine, if I remember that correctly.
No, they didn't.
I don't think anybody went from the federal government didn't go there. I don't remember EPA making a big to-do about it. I don't remember. I do remember there was a politician went down there to throw some rocks in the water that showed how toxic the water was. But no, I don't remember anyone from the Ohio EPA going there and helping out the people. It's a tragedy.
Oh, here's a picture.
For those areas that we have deemed.
Now this was a photo op. You had the Ohio EPA there. You had Sherrod Brown made an appearance. Sherrod Brown was there.
But they didn't clean up anything.
Well, that's not there. You expect them to clean anything up? I mean, come on.
I smell it.
Look at this.
And that smell was never there before, so how is that safe?
We don't fall into the 1 mile zone. Okay, there's no danger.
Oh yeah,
but yet
that's right. You were supposed to. The wording was, and I think DeWine was behind this. Oh, evacuate 1 mile, 1 mile, and you'll be safe, and just hang out there for maybe a day or half a day or something. Then you can come back. Yeah, what a bunch of BS.
Can you explain it? No, they can't explain it.
Watch this.
Oh, here's J.D. Vance, by the way.
See that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine.
After leaving, I became sick. So I had headaches for 2
That was one of the researchers right there.
Straight. And then a week later, the CDC sent a team in, and 7 of their employees got sick.
We have a flyer from
Look
the
at
EPA.
that. All right, listen to this. They received a flyer from the EPA. Listen to this.
That says that there is no reason to believe that the particles in the smoke produced from the train derailment fire contain substances at levels of concern. Are you kidding me? This is what they are putting out and giving to us. And the last sentence is, results from the sampling to date, this is the soil sampling, have not shown any cause for concern. What was interesting and this was given to us, they told us they didn't have the soil samples back yet.
Because that pollution just doesn't go straight up and come straight down. It spreads out like a plume.
It's like now we're like science experiments to them because they don't know.
We're in a chemical cocktail and we're lab rats.
Unbelievable. So the EPA, they sent out those pamphlets to everybody saying there's nothing to worry about. The soil samples had come back, nothing to worry about. And she's saying they hadn't gotten the soil samples back yet. So they pre-wrote all that material. It was pre-written and handed out to the residents. That's how inefficient the government is. They cannot even lie effectively. They get caught in their own lies. The idiots printed up all that literature saying everything's fine before they had even done the testing.
Right.
Unbelievable. Wow. But anyhow, the whole idea there was because we're talking about DeWine. Now, what else was DeWine involved in?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat.
Yeah.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat.
I love it. I love that. That is so good. But he was involved with Springfield. He's got all those Haitians there. And he doesn't want
that
to
train,
leave.
that train crash was in instead of East Palestine. If it was in Springfield, it would have probably been cleaned up in a week.
Oh my Lord! If it was in,
maybe I'm getting too cynical in my old age.
Yeah, if it was in Springfield, he'd have had a whole different perspective on it. But because it wasn't Springfield, yep, I got you.
I can't let this go on. Miss me like an airball. Tell me where my cat is, cough it up like a hairball. I gotta tell them if they even put the fingernail.
I don't know. Everything has gone completely crazy and nuts. This whole world is completely crazy and completely nuts. You don't know what to believe anymore.
I believe the statement now. It used to be a joke, but I believe it now. Ohio was first in aviation and 47th in everything else. I'm starting to really believe that.
All right. If we look at population here, I want to show you this.
With the left-leaning Brennan Center projecting that blue states are likely to lose at least 10 House seats.
This is some good news here, guys. Okay, the 2030 congressional reappointment, they're saying that we are going to gain 10 congressional seats. The Republicans will gain 10. And you can see from this map where they're going to be coming from. California in 2030 is expected to lose 4 seats. Oregon will lose a seat. You got Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois losing a seat. PA, Rhode Island, New York will lose 2. But look at the states that gain. You got Texas, Florida. Those are big gains right there. Texas gaining 4, Florida
I like the
gaining
look of
3.
that. Is that, do we have ICE to thank for that? All of the people who can't vote, but we're probably voting
I think that,
anyway,
yeah, I think you're right. I think that there is ICE. ICE is a factor in this. But what do you guys think about Ohio? I mean, it's just gray. So we're not expecting Ohio to gain any more population. What's wrong with Ohio? I mean, we should be gaining population.
We should be gaining. Everything that's wrong with Ohio can be summed up with the 2 things that I keep bringing up over and over again on this show and have been for years. The first is precinct strategy. Don't forget to go to ohioprecinctstrategy.org and learn about getting involved at the local level. It's basic civics. That's all it is. There's a fancy name attached to it, but it's just basic civics. You know who's really good at American civics? All our enemies. All the people who chant death to America and hate us and want to ruin America from within, they are taking over our political institutions. They're organizing, taking seats, they're gaining the levers of power. We could be doing that, but Americans, unfortunately, so far, overwhelmingly, stick to social media and became keyboard warriors posting about their frustrations. Well, it's time to stop and start getting involved in local politics. You'll see that feeds the system, and as soon as our ecosystem is full of actual patriotic Americans, this whole thing turns around. In Ohio, we have about 50% vacancy, which means nobody even bothered to run, which means our Ohio Republican Party is maybe at about half strength. We turn that around when people all over Ohio choose to get involved at the local level and start asking questions, digging into things, and become active. The other is Ohio rhino hunters. Ohio rhino hunters, and interestingly, the Rhino Removal Project also started in Ohio. That tells you everything you need to know about what we call the Republican Party in the state of Ohio. It has been the unfortunate benefactor of massive crossover. Huge numbers of people who are lifelong far-left, ultra-liberal, progressive Democrats who suddenly showed up one day, knocked on the door at the GOP tent and said, "Hey, can I come in and run for higher office?" And bewilderingly, some people within the Republican Party for decades were like, "Oh, sure. You want to run as a Republican? There you go. Have at it. And we'll even help you. We'll give you some money to run for that." We need to get rid of them. And then we will have an actual Republican Party. We can do all kinds of great things. We can get medical freedom bills passed. We can lower taxes, scale back government. We can repeal some of these egregious overreach of government and the administrative state in Ohio. All of that's possible. We can clean up our election systems, which are a mess. Don't listen to DeWine. Or LaRose. It was LaRose, actually, for years, was calling it the gold standard. That's not even, if it's plated gold, it's fool's gold. We need major reforms in Ohio's election systems. We need a lot of stuff. We're not going to get it until we actually have an actual Republican Party. Not a Republican Party in name only, but an actual Republican Party. That means you get involved locally. Go to ohioprecinctstrategy.org to find out how.
Yeah, we need patriots like Marcel Strivich, who's running for Secretary of State. We need new leadership.
We need some new blood.
That's a good example, and it's said, it's being rumored, I think you guys have probably heard this, we're 12 days away from February 20th, and it's rumored that people like our very own Joe Miller are going to be asked to endorse for Ohio Secretary of State. Well, first of all, I actually created a resolution encouraging the Ohio Republican Party not to endorse in these contested primaries. It's up to we the people. Give we the people the voice and the vote. Let us decide who our next Secretary of State becomes. So on or about February 20th, there's going to be a meeting of the Ohio Republican Party, and the rumor is they're going to try to further destroy Ohio by making terrible, terrible endorsements, like all the 40 years of just derelict, non-existent, and destroyed Republican Party, and moving to 47th and everything, as Brian said, isn't enough. They want to try to endorse more bad people into office so that we can continue to slide into a derelict, destitute state. Say no. If you happen to know your county Central Committee representative or your state representative, that would be Joe Miller in the Cuyahoga County area, call up and ask, please don't endorse. Say no to endorsements. And certainly don't go in there and endorse the musical chairs of those people who are career politicians and have yet to do anything good in Columbus.
Yeah, I'm on the committee, so I'll be one of the 66 voting. It's majority rules. But I'm not in favor of endorsing anyone if it's a good, strong, contested race, like Marcel going against Robert Sprague for Secretary of State. We should not be endorsing that. So anyhow, we'll see how all that plays out. And I'm going to try to live stream it, too. I think that would be a good event to live stream. So I'm going to take the equipment and live stream it that day, too. That is February 20th on a Friday at 10 a.m., so we'll find out what's going on there with that. Let's look at this for a minute. You guys, let's talk a little bit about voter, and also you guys chatting in the by the way, some good chats and stuff. So if you want to contribute a little bit with the whole dialogue and stuff, go ahead and chat. John Robinson, sad reality, the attorneys represent the courts, being they are licensed by the Supreme Court. The judges, politicians, and attorneys have destroyed our country by colluding with big corporations, allowing the crimes and theft of our lands and minerals across America through their courtrooms.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. The courtrooms are not as honest as you think. That is for sure. The RNC and DNC are controlled by the Department of Justice. The system is ran by criminals who came out of law universities. Okay, the one other thing, what do you think of Pooch for governor, or Putz for governor? He was on the show. We had him on the show, and he said, put your money where your mouth is. That's how you pronounce his name, Putz. What do you think of him? Well, I guess we could ask that real quick. I don't want to go into any long discussions. What do you think of Casey?
I like him, and I like Heather Hill, but I like change. But the realities of the politics in Ohio, trying to beat the Republican or the Democrat, with an R and a D after their name, it's going to be tough to for those two, as much as I like them both, to beat Ramaswamy. Unfortunate.
All right,
but that's the realities of it.
Real quick, what's your thought, Jonathan?
Yeah. Well, I'm with Brian on that.
Okay.
And we've now talked to several of them. We've had some extensive conversation, and I think I'll just sum it up by saying that at that level of game, with the high stakes state of Ohio, it's going to take money, it's going to take momentum, it's going to take having access to the wheels of power, the political influence, and I just don't see Heather Hill or Casey Put
your money where your mouth is.
Put your money. I just don't see them getting there. I've been very reserved in my comments about Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm going to keep it that way for now. But as far as sort of the likelihood of getting into office, and you know what? Here's what I'm going to add to this. There are a lot of people who are dismissive of Amy Acton because she is a just a wacko out there far left character. But then again, I mean, look at AOC and look at a lot of the people on the far left. The left don't seem to care, and they're super, super motivated to get out there and vote where our people aren't. So I think Amy Acton is actually more of a threat than regular, average, ordinary, patriotic Ohioans realize.
Yeah, she could be. She definitely could be, because one of the things I've heard with Amy is that she's going to get some of this money from the big pharma, and if they start funding her, it's anybody's ball game. Hey, let me go to this for a second here. Let's see if I get some sound here.
Have a photo ID to be able
let me
to
see
vote.
If I can
So
get
something
to...
of a non. Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82%
now this is all
of
about
Latino.
voting
76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this: voter ID is not controversial.
Okay, let's talk here for a minute about voter ID, and
if
anybody in the chat room has some thoughts on voter ID as well. As you can see, this is from CNN.
The vast majority of Americans.
This is from CNN, and you got whites, 85% want voter ID, and this includes photo ID. You got 82% of the Latinos and 76% of the blacks. They all want voter ID. And the SAVE Act is coming up. The SAVE Act, you guys familiar with the SAVE Act? I'm going to read you something about the SAVE Act. Because well, first of all, with John Thune, Rhino John Thune, we've gone 39 days now, and they've been bugging this guy, John Thune, the leader of the Republican senators in Congress, to pass the SAVE Act. So now he is 39 days, and he has yet to do it. But what I want to talk about here with the strategy that they want to use, okay? So what they're telling Thune to do is there's two types of filibusters, all right? There is the silent filibuster, and there is the speaking filibuster. So what they're saying, they keep saying to Thune is, we want you to nuke the silent filibuster. And that means that the filibuster is in there, so the Democrats could come up and they could try to stop they could try to stop us putting the SAVE Act and voting on it. We need 51 votes, but they could stop it through a filibuster. But the way the filibuster works, if you nuke the silent one and you say, now you got to do a speaking one, every senator gets two chances up at the podium. And you have to stand at the podium and you have to talk, and you can't go to the restroom and you can't take any breaks or nothing like that. If you do, then your time is up. Now we got 47 Democrat senators. Each one of them could theoretically go up to the podium twice and talk. Now the record is 25 hours, and only a few guys have ever done it for 20 hours, because you can imagine how much stamina and everything it takes. But we've got a lot of very old senators in the Democrats. They ain't going to be able to stand up there that long. They got to go out or use the restroom before you know it, you know. Now, if each one was to stand up there for 10 hours, which I don't think you could do that. I think a few of them could, but I don't think they all could. Well, let's just use 10 hours as a random number. So if all of them get up there and talk for 10 hours and you're allowed to go cycle twice through, it's going to take about 5.5 weeks. It has to be continuous. All right, it has to be continuous, which means that it goes through the night, through the day, everything. It'd be 5.5 weeks straight. And at that point, the Democrats, and that would be the longest I could see it going, the Democrats would come along and say, we give up, we throw up the white flag, go ahead and vote. Now, the only problem here is the Republicans have to be in the building as well. They don't have to be necessarily in that area where the talking is going on. They can go out through, the Capitol, or they can mosey around and stuff, but they can't go too far, because at the minute the Democrats officially say we're done, the Republicans have to gather together and they got to vote. That's just the way the rules are. So it would be, an inconvenience for the Republicans as well. They got to stay there at longest 5.5 weeks. Now, again, they can have food delivered. They could probably go out and get food. They just can't mosey too far from the building, okay? It's an inconvenience, but it would save the country. It would save the country. And it's like you got guys going over and fighting and getting their arms and legs blown off and everything else. So this would save the country if we could just get the rhinos to say, okay, we're going to do this. We are going to do this. All right. What do you think of that? You think it's worthwhile?
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. I mean, to me, it just seems ridiculous that you don't ask for an ID. We ask here in Lake County. I'm a poll worker, and we're asking for IDs every time.
Right.
I did hear Babylon B. They had a suggestion, and what they heard was that the Democrats were going to accept death certificates as a form of ID for their voters. And that pretty much sums it up for me, that the Democrats want to pervert the whole system. And unfortunately, we've got some Democrats with a Republican after their name that are doing the same thing. And as Jonathan says, you've got too many rhinos in the Republican Party, and no one is looking out the best interest of our country. It really is ridiculous.
Okay, so you know where they're digging up a lot of votes, the Democrats?
The graveyard?
The graveyard. You said it. That's where they're digging up a lot of their votes. So, anyhow, I just wanted to let you guys know about those two types of filibusters. And that's what they're trying to do, okay? Because we could make it become a law once they give up the filibuster and they stop it, because we can get 51 votes. The Republicans can get 51 votes. So that's the way I understand it. Now, Thune has to call it to the floor, and if he calls it to the floor for a vote, that's when the Democrats are going to say, we're going to do the filibuster. But those Democrats, come on, Republicans and Democrats, some of them have been in there so long, they couldn't stand at the podium very long. You got to stand. You can't sit. And if you got to go to the restroom, too bad. Your time is up.
Well, I think some of them are probably going to try to use the excuse that they need to sit in a wheelchair. Because I think some of them are, what's the term? Octogenarian? Some of them, they've been in politics for, 50 plus years, and they're in wheelchairs and stuff. But backing up a step, just a few things to interject. Statewide in Ohio, roughly just under a quarter of votes in the most recent election were some form of mail-in or absentee. That means that a quarter of votes out there have no ID check. There is no ID check that's associated with those mail-in ballots. So around a quarter of Ohio's votes, you can just sort of cross off the list for ID verification. In the ID verification that does happen, if you happen to go into a location personally, physically, one of the issues that showed up last time is that, at least in some counties, people weren't trained to look on the ID for the area that says non-citizen, or whatever the verbiage that they use. So apparently there were some places, and people like Marcel Sturbich, I think he showed up, and a few others, and actually read them the riot act at those counties and said, you have to train your people properly, because we're handing out IDs like candy all over the state of Ohio, pretty much to anybody. If they can fog a mirror, apparently they're handed an ID. And some of them actually say non-citizen, but we weren't doing a good job of checking those. The last piece of the puzzle in the whole thing, if you are impressed with how efficiently your county runs, just be aware that your county puts on this big event, and there are all kinds of voting machines and systems and stacks of paper, and the stacks of paper gets collated at bins, and then there are thumb drives that get pulled out of proprietary software, and all that stuff gets all loaded up. And the county can do an absolute perfect job of checking every box there is and going down the list and doing it flawlessly. And then they just ship it off to Columbus, where it gets shuffled in, and then Columbus announces to the county what happened, effectively. That's sort of what's happening from a digital standpoint. So it can be confusing and misleading by design to think, well, it looks really good because I went in and showed my ID, but don't be confused by that. And Joe, if you'll give me another minute here, I want to correct something. I was making comments earlier about our library systems, and I noticed there is somebody in the chat who said that they are a librarian. During the years of the trying to fight those horrible books that were putting in kindergarten sections and all that stuff, there were big fights with the libraries all over Ohio and all over the nation. And I learned at the time that we had a really bad head of the American Library Association. Well, I've looked it up, and I think I stand corrected. The new head, or new to me, head of the American Library Association, Sam Helmick, according to everything I'm reading, actually looks like a really good person and a great candidate for the job. Good, solid conservative background. So hopefully they're righting the ship, and people like me who spent like about 4 years furious with our libraries and the fact that we were funding them, and they just took great joy and pride, pun intended, in putting just horrible content into the children's sections. Apparently they're correcting for that. So I stand corrected.
Oh, okay, very good. You stand corrected.
Yep.
All right, here's I got to play this. This is about voter ID that we're kind of talking about here. This is...
Some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to...
Not the video.
Go ahead, Kent.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a little break and say thanks for everybody in the chat all over during this the big game evening boycott.
Oh yeah, there's some sport
I
happening.
just want to we want to thank also in Facebook, make sure to subscribe to all our channels, make sure to also go to our website ohiopoliticalnews.com/shop, and you can get the mugs, you can get t-shirts, anything. You can see also a donation button to support us. I just want to also thank people that are in Facebook. If you can support us, you can click down in the chat area. There's a star icon, and last week Scott Siegel also donated 1,000 stars, so we appreciate that. And I see in the Rumble chat R.H. Wagner as a supporter on locals. So you can also go to on Rumble, click on the $ in the bottom of the chat to do a Rumble rant. You can also send a gift. That would be great too. There's a little GIF icon. You can do that, or click on the join button over by our Ohio Political News with the green check mark, and then join us on locals. We're going to be starting to do a lot more stuff over there, premium content, also doing some live streams for possibly politicians or other situations. So join us. It's only $5 a month to join us. It's only a coffee. So, I mean, if you can support us that way, that would be great. It's only $5 a month to join us and support us. It does cost money to do this. I know Joe's going out to live stream. I think there was a couple of situations with Brian going to live stream in the next couple of days or weeks. So there's a lot going on. So it does cost money, but we do want to get the content out. And also, if you are a business, and I know there's a gentleman on the call tonight that's working with us, but also other people that are interested in becoming a sponsor onto the show, it will be on all the different platforms. We're on multiple platforms supporting getting your whatever business, or if you're a politician, to get the word out. we do we're growing. Grow with us and support us and grow with us together. So I just wanted to thank everybody in the chat, and we wanted to thank all the supporters too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as that locals goes, we are going to start doing some premium content on there. So, but until we do, that $5 a month really helps us a lot. Now, what is some of the premium content that we're thinking of doing? Well, this is a possibility. Maybe we would get one of the local politicians and we would do a Zoom call with them. So it wouldn't be like we'd be broadcasting this out over the airwaves. It would be everybody who is on locals who pays $5 a month. We would just do a giant Zoom call with that politician and you talk to them. It would be a Zoom call, so you would just physically talk to them and they can answer questions. So that would be like maybe some of the benefits of joining locals. So these are some of the ideas we're trying to work on. But we do want to give special treatment to people who would support us like that. All right, thanks a lot, Kent. Really appreciate it. Somebody gave an update on the football game. What was that about? What did that say?
If you want to go, maybe try to go on to the TPUSA, maybe Rumble channel. They're doing the national anthem over there. But thank you for that update on that.
Playing the national anthem on Turning Point USA halftime show. It's really, really good. Well, we're not going to go there. We've got our own thing going. But that's, that's a good idea there. All right, George, you're out there, right? George Satari? George?
Hello, George.
Are you still with us?
Can you hear me? Hello?
George, how's it going, man?
Joe, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
I can hear you. The voice of reason from beyond and everything. So.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah. Bridget is saying that she's watching both us and Turning Point USA. That's the way to do it. Now, that's being creative. All right, I got to play this because this woman could possibly be the next president of the United States. God help us all, but let me hear what she has to say
what would
here.
Be required
this is
of them
all
to
on voter ID.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are.
I wish and I hope the Democrats run her again. They've got to. Please, please, please.
Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Oh my gosh, guys!
Agreeing to voter ID,
we've got to only hope. They did an online vote, which isn't the most accurate. Kamala Harris won for the Democratic presidential nominee. She came in first. Gavin Newsom came in second. So there's still hope. You throw her in there, and any of us could run and win. Let me get George in here for a second. George, what's happening out there, and what's going on, man?
First of all, I didn't even understand what the hell she said, and this has to be one of the stupidest people around and alive. Go to Kinko's and make a copy of your driver's license. Right. Okay, well, when you go vote, I guess she was probably talking about if you want to vote by mail-in, but we need to eliminate mail-in. We need to have absentee ballot for those people who are infirm, in nursing homes, ill, in the military, traveling out of the area, and that's it. We need to eliminate this 28-day and 30-day nonsense and get your ass, just like you can go to the casino or a football game or a high school football game, or you can go to the grocery store, you can go to your polling place and go vote. what does she think? I mean, are we that irresponsible that we can't even go vote? And then she thinks the black people are stupid. They don't have driver's licenses or IDs. Yeah, I went to the liquor store and they asked for my ID. I told them to go to hell because I don't want to give it to them. That's insane, obviously. So she's insane. They're insane, and she's not going to win the nomination. It's going to be Gavin Newsom or somebody like him.
It probably will be, yeah. But we can always hope. We can always hope.
Poll: 83% of adults support requiring photo ID to vote. 71% of Democrats favor requiring photo ID. Is that something that you can support? And if not, why not?
It's still going to be something, Jonathan. It's still going to be something that disenfranchises people that don't have the proper real ID, driver's license ID, that don't have the ID necessary to vote, even though they are citizens.
Yeah. So it's going to disenfranchise people.
Yeah, people are stupid. Yeah, they can't get a driver's license or a state ID or a passport or something. And on top of that, it was the Democrats who brought in, Chuck Schumer keeps talking about Jim Crow. It was the Democrats who gave us Jim Crow laws, not the Republicans. But switching subjects a little bit, 2026 midterm elections are coming up. President Trump needs to shut the hell up. We don't need to rename the Kennedy Center after him, the Reagan National Airport. We don't need to give him the Nobel Peace Prize because he was 9 days in office. That's it. He's in the next cycle. He doesn't need to say stupid things about Christianity at the prayer breakfast. Can he ever just shut the hell up and focus on the issue at hand, the economy, affordability, deporting aliens, illegals, taking care of Venezuela like he did, taking care of the Panama Canal that needs to get taken care of? President Trump, shut the hell up. What's the matter with you? Are you like ADD? Or are you a narcissist? Or are you an egomaniac? Just shut the hell up. Good Lord.
Okay, well, speaking of...
How do you really feel, George?
Speaking of illegal aliens, hey, listen to this. I want to get a little discussion going on this. And if anybody in the chat wants to discuss this, too. This is all welfare going to illegal immigrants.
A new study finds that 61% of illegal immigrant households collect some sort of welfare, which is almost double the rate of people born in the United States.
Most of that welfare use is coming to their U.S.-born children to illegal immigrant-headed households. So you have a parent or two parents who are here illegally, but they have children who are born here, and that's very common, and those are U.S. citizen children. They're entitled to welfare, all sorts of benefits, school lunch programs, food stamps, even housing assistance can go to those U.S. citizen children. And so, of course, that floats the whole family. So 61% of these families, as you said, use at least one welfare benefit.
All right. So what he's jabbering about there is the illegals are not supposed to be getting welfare. All right. They're not supposed to be getting welfare. But there is an exception if they have kids in this country. Those kids are U.S. citizens. So the kids are entitled to the welfare, the food stamps, the housing, all these benefits. They're entitled to. But it's not just them. The whole family becomes involved in this. The whole family then is allowed to take advantage of our welfare system. So the Democrats really have a great plan here. Number one, infiltrate this country with as many illegals as they can because they want the votes. And then number two, encourage them to have kids while they're here because then they'll get the welfare and they'll be able to stay here. And 61%, according to that poll, they're all on welfare. And that 37% of non-illegals are on welfare. And that, to me, is way too high. But round the horn on that one. What do you think?
Yeah, well, when you consider that and you consider the fraud from the Somalis, whether in Columbus or, in Minnesota, something's got to be done about it. But unless the average citizen, keeps pushing back and electing the right people, I think we're just going to keep on going because the Democrats seem to, control things.
There is a lot of fraud, and that Medicaid fraud and everything. That is sky high with all those phony daycare centers. So we got a lot of.
So the thing you're talking about there, Joe, is anchor. It's called anchor babies, and there's a whole cottage industry that bloomed out of trying to get pregnant women onto U.S. soil just prior to birth so that the baby would be born and then be able to claim all the access to all those things. And there's now indication coming out that China actually has a whole program set up, allegedly, by the Chinese Communist Party to get Chinese families in and get birth children here who are then granted those things. And then there's some indication that they're actually then taken back to China and raised under the communism of China, hating America. And so you have people, they're creating a whole army of Manchurian candidates that have access to all this stuff. And that's a big part of the reason that some people are pushing back and trying to end that whole anchor baby thing. For a while, we knew that there were people that would maybe, if they were in South America, they would fight to get over the border and just get into U.S. soil and be able to claim that. But it's gotten much worse, and it's even more abused. But going back to the things that we've been talking about the Republican Party and will they act and will they do the right thing? Will John Thune do this? And can we get rid of these bad actors? Can we force our Republican Party to actually do the right thing in any instance? I'm going to apply this to both Ohio and federal Republican Party. They will do the right thing when they feel pressure. Right now, there's no pressure. They can effectively do whatever they want, and you can get these far left liberal Democrats in the Republican Party, and they can trample, they can literally get up on screen and shred the Constitution and rip it up. They can laugh, they can do whatever they want. If they get the financial backing, and then they get the endorsements, and then they get reelected, they don't care. As soon as you take away their endorsements, they're done for. Their political campaign, their political career is done. Well, how do you take control of the endorsements? I'm so glad that you asked. It's called precinct strategy. I brought it up earlier in the show. It's basic civics. Whoever controls the precinct controls the endorsements. If you want to control the endorsements, go throw your hat in the ring in your local GOP and organize to run it. We have local GOP. We have people in the Republican Party. We all talk about them, especially in Ohio. We're like, gosh, isn't it crazy that person is just like a Gavin Newsom, but they have an R next to their name. What's the strange mystery behind that? And then next thing you know, lo and behold, they get reelected. They get reelected because the bad guys control the endorsements, and they get kickbacks and they get money from it. It's going to continue until enough of us get involved. There are people like me that are involved in the Republican Party, but sometimes we're outnumbered, and it doesn't matter what we say or do, the bad guys keep winning. We're waiting for you, our reinforcements, to get involved in the Republican Party. As soon as we have majority, we vote for better things and a better future.
Well, it all goes back to what we were saying before. If we don't keep an eye on the politicians, all hell breaks loose, and all hell is starting to break loose here. Do you guys know who this is? Chuck Schumer. And he was saying back in 1996, I happened to catch this, it was kind of interesting. He was saying back in 1996 that the number one reason people come to the U.S. illegally is to defraud the system, like Social Security, and that he wants to stop it. Isn't that amazing how different he is today? 1996, that's the number one reason they were doing that. Oh, here's our good buddy DeWine. He's always on CNN talking. Elizabeth Warren warns that President Trump has terminated 50% of employees at the Department of Education. What's your response?
That's a start.
Yeah, it's a start.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, yeah. Only 50%.
And here's another good one, this representative, Ayanna Presley's, her net worth, she joined Congress in 2019. This lady right here. She joined in 2019. She had $12,000. That was her total net worth. Not very much money. Today, she has $8 million. She's worth $8 million. Do you think maybe we should be investigating her? And
yep.
I'm going to throw a question out to George because he's with the CPA and all that kind of stuff. George, what does it take for to investigate somebody about fraud? Why is it that all these Congress people are getting filthy rich and nobody investigates them? Is it really that hard? Come on, it can't be.
Well, you have to remember, first of all, the rules are different. They can, it used to be they could do insider trading and they couldn't do it. Then they went back to being able to do it. So the question is, what are they allowed to know and what are they allowed to trade on? I believe the insider trading is alive and well in Congress and is legal to some extent. I don't know.
And they made it legal, right? It was probably their law that made it legal.
Yeah, Congress usually exempts themselves from most laws, whether it's overtime and personnel and HR and all kind of rules and regulations. They exempt themselves because they're above the law. So I don't know. It wouldn't take much to investigate. Again, if what she was doing was illegal, but if she was doing is like Omar Ilhan, she went from basically 0 to 30 million. Of course, she could have gotten a ton of kickbacks from the Somalis. I don't know. So, yeah, to figure it out wouldn't be very difficult.
But that's what I was thinking also. It's not just insider trading, but what about just kickbacks, the money laundering? That's got to be a big part of it, I would think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it would be very easy to trace and track. But, again, I don't know if you need probable cause or exactly how that works.
That's because
they kind of insulate themselves. They kind of insulate themselves so that they are above the law because they make the laws, but that's just so rotten.
Unfortunately, I think that while those certainly are issues, you're barking up the wrong tree. So kickbacks happen, and you may be able to find them, and certainly there's still some insider trading. But it is my firm belief that where the real we can't say fraud, where the real money is made, the big money is in shaping regulation that controls markets. So if you for instance roll out a green new deal energy type of plan that really effectively forces every household to buy, this is a hypothetical by the way, if you force every household to buy solar panels, and the solar panels have to be above 600 watts. If you happen to own shares of the company that imports them, you make a lot of money. If you change the regulations so that businesses have to hang certain posters for OSHA, that's the Occupational Safety and Hazard Association, whatever OSHA stands for. But there are only 3 printers that print that, and they have to be printed on a certain type of paper. These are hypotheticals. If you own shares of the printing companies and you own the mill that makes the paper that's allowed to be used, you make money. You repeat that over and over and over again, and eventually you get where we are, which is DC and people in politics view us like cattle. They're constantly prodding us and herding us around like cattle, telling us what types of earbuds we're allowed to use and which new phones and what new software and all that stuff. And if you own the company prior to everyone having to buy the thing, whatever it is, software, antivirus stuff, new type of monitor, new blue lens to protect your eyes, whatever, all of it. If you own the company prior to effectively dictating and mandating to the people that they have to buy that thing, you will become vastly rich. And that has nothing to do with insider trading. It has to do with being able to predict markets, or actually you don't even have to predict it when you're making it, if you create mandates. So that's where all the mandates that crush small business, that's where they come from. That's a big primary part of the objective of them, is to get people forced to buy and behave in certain ways because you can profit off of it.
Yeah, and they're doing a very good job of that too. That profiting, they're doing a great job, making lots of money. It's kind of sad. Well, there's a country out there that is using voter ID now. So, which country do you think it is, Brian? What country?
Voter ID?
Yep.
Is that what you said?
Yep. They just started using voter ID. Everybody has to show ID.
I don't know. Uganda?
Isn't that all of them? Except the United States?
How about Somalia? Somalia. The Somalians are now saying that you have to have ID to vote in their country. Isn't that something? That's ironic. And they come here and they don't need it. But they go back home and they need it. And Somalia is known as the most corrupt country, one of the most corrupt countries out there, and yet they're insisting on voter ID. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. All right, last thoughts, guys. We will call it a night. And I want to thank everybody who's been chatting with us. Thank you, and God bless you very much for that. All right, last thoughts. Give us some words of wisdom. I'll start with you, Brian. Words of wisdom, man.
Yeah, don't forget your mug. You too can get your own Ohio Political News mug. We are going to live stream. We're going to the Geauga Tea Party event tomorrow. Jonathan's going to be there, and we're hoping to live stream it for Ohio Political News. John Maher and myself will be talking about a few things. Hopefully you can join us.
Awesome. Words of wisdom.
Cool. We'll see you there. Yep. I will be there. I will try to maybe capture Brian for a minute, and we'll get in front of camera, and we'll give you a wave from Geauga County tomorrow night.
Excellent.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
George, you're going to end the show, so make it good, man.
Yeah, 2 weeks from yesterday, February 21st, is the first fundraiser for Kerry Coleman running for Ohio District 13. It'll be down at Mulligan's in Canton off the Everhard Road exit. And it's going to have a comedian there, too, a night of good entertainment. Tickets are going fast. I think we could seat about 100 people. Tickets are $100. And obviously there's a buffet and I think one drink ticket. But the campaign needs to raise money to impress other people to raise bigger money. That's unfortunately how it works. You got to raise money to make more money and to be able to spend more money, because I think the last cycle for this race between the Republican and the Democrat, they spent over $10 million. So,
wow. So he's got to do a lot of fundraising. How is it? So you're working with Kerry Coleman, District 13, who's going up against Amelia Sykes. Well, he's got to win the primary first, but I'm sure he will, the Republican primary. And then he's got to go up against Amelia Sykes. You're saying that he might need $10 million.
No, that's not what I said. I said between the two candidates in the last cycle, including all the independent PACs and different people, they spent $10 million.
So everybody together spent, that's still a lot of money. I mean, he's going to have to come up with $4 or $5 million probably, right?
He'd have to raise probably $2 to $3 million, and there'll be some independent PACs setting up shop. So they'll probably spend $5 million on each side to get back to the $10 million level. But more importantly, I'm trying to get a royalty payment on my slogan. Yikes! It's Amelia Sykes.
Yeah, yikes! It's Sykes. Yeah, that's catchy. Get enough of those yard signs there. Put one in her front yard. Find out where she lives and just plug it right there. That would be good.
But unfortunately, she lives in Columbus, so I don't think that'll help.
I thought you had to live in the district. It's amazing. You don't even have to live in the district.
You have to live in the state. You have to live in the state in which you're a representative. You don't need to live in the district in which you represent. There's approximately 18 congressmen who do not live in their district that represent the district.
Wow. Okay, another loophole, courtesy of our lawmakers. All right, you guys have a good night, and thank you again.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you.
All right,
Good night. All right, good night.